Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. I do hope you are well and getting results through your teams as ever. My name is Matthew Haddock and I'm here to give you some practical, human, real-life leadership skills. First of all, I'd say thank you so much for the people who have taken the time this year and last year to have a listen to the podcast. I do hope it is adding value to you and you are getting the results you want and really growing as a leader, because that's what this show is all about. Today we're going to tackle one of the hardest things that leaders do. And this is not necessarily what they do, it's what they don't do. You know, it don't matter if you're in operation, supply chain, customer-facing roles. We're talking about the really hard and very difficult thing of saying no. Not the aggressive no, not the angry no, not the lazy no, can't be arsed no. No, we're talking about that disciplined, strategic no that protects your performance. You know, because there's the uncomfortable truths. Saying yes to everyone feels very helpful. It feels great. Everyone feels happy. It's not awkward. But it often creates a slow, silent spiral towards failure. If you've ever thought, we'll just do it, just this once, we'll just make it happen, we'll just say yes. We don't want to upset the customer. They're going to be big. Let's just make sure it happens. We can figure it out later. You've heard all those before. Well, this episode is for you. Now, there is a yes trap. And as I say, we're all people pleasers. A lot of the time we want to say yes because it's a nice thing to do and we're nice people. Most of us are nice people. So what happens is leaders don't necessarily want to have the difficult conversations. Most leaders don't say yes because they're weak, no. They say yes because they want to be supportive. They want to keep a customer happy. Who wouldn't? They want to avoid the conflict. They believe flexibility equals good leadership. But here's what repeated yeses really do create. They create complexity in what they're doing because they're going outside the processes. They create variations in what they do because they're saying yes to some and maybe not saying yes too much to others. They create a rework culture. They actually add stress to others, because if that person always says yes, then somebody down the line might be picking up the pieces and having to say no, especially when it comes to people management. If you're saying yes to everyone's holidays, but then you haven't got enough staff to do the job, somewhere down the line, somebody has to say no. And they create waste. Every yes you say, think of it this way, it creates a cost to your business. And most organisations never add these costs up. There's silent costs in the background, ticking away, eating away at your profit. And what happens? It's not something that immediately hits you. No, it's a few months down the road or a few weeks down the road. Your service, it drops. Your quality slips. Your teams get burnt out. Leaders are constantly firefighting, and that is the spiral when you say yes. So today we're going to go through a simple framework. We're going to explain what yes does in a little bit more detail and how it affects your business in 3 different ways. And then we're going to go into what the right way to say no. So let's look at those 3 important frameworks. Number 1, why saying yes creates a failure. Number 2, what strategic no actually means. And number 3, how saying no removes waste and builds skills. This isn't about being difficult, it's about being effective. So let's start with number 1. Why saying yes creates failures? Well, we've said it before and earlier in this show. Extra time, extra resource, extra people involved because they've got to put extra planning on, extra communication on, extra checks on. You create extra risk by saying yes. Now, the common foes for saying yes, well, it's a fear of losing the customer. So we have this thing of we're going to lose a customer if we don't suddenly say yes to everything. There's a short-term thinking in saying yes because it does fix a short-term problem. And sometimes a yes is so simple. Yes, well, of course, we'll make that happen for you. Gosh, that customer's so difficult. Let's just say yes. Leaders are not fixing the problem by saying yes. They're just putting a band-aid over it. And of course, it creates an idea which we think we've got this flexibility by saying yes, but not really. All we've done is kick it down the road. The problem's still going to be there. The simple yes, as we think, will add to the future problems. The most unstable businesses are often the most accommodating businesses. They carry complexity, but nobody sees this complexity until everything breaks. So that's why, number one, why saying yes creates such failures. Number two, what strategic no really means. Well, strategic no is not rejection. It's clarity. It's making sure your customers, your internal and external people, your stakeholders know exactly where you stand. That strategic no really does mean no. We have a very open culture and we want to say yes, but we have to explain why no is an important thing. It is very much like a medicine. You might not like the taste, but you know in the long run it's going to make you better. So they might sound like this. Let's clarify what it sounds like. We don't do that here. This is why. So you explain the whys of you're not going to do the yes. You're not going to make the shortcut. That's outside our standard offering. That's why we're not going to say yes in this instance. But there's a but there. This is what we can offer you. Look, we can't support that. That will have massive impacts on other things. But these are the things we're going to do to make sure you get what you need when we can do it. You see how that strong leadership, it doesn't mean emotional no, it means a strategic no, because you've explained to the customer what you're trying to get to and they will be on board with you on the journey. Same with internal customers. You'll be getting pressure from up the boardroom about getting a report in at a certain time. Sometimes you need to be saying no because there'll be more important and really urgent things you need to be getting to. Some of the common foes of that strategic no, well, of course, there's this idea that leaders can override standards, so they're expected to, whereas a strategic no is saying we don't do that. These are the clear rules of engagement and this is what we're going to follow. Just saying yes this once is not going to happen because it will cause so many more issues down the road. Number three, how no removes waste and builds success. Right, let's get into this. When you say no, well, and that's something important, sometimes you've got to be saying no well, you've got to say it in a powerful, happy way. When you say no well, something powerful happens to the rest of your team. Processes are simplified. Your flow improves, the errors get reduced, people can regain the confidence that they've got, and performance starts to stabilise. It really does, because it removes this over complexity, it removes the rework loop, it removes that excess planning, and it gets away from firefighting. So let's go to the most important part of what we've been speaking about. How to say no the right way. And there's a simple structure leaders can use for this. As ever, I believe in simple. You need to anchor it to your standards. Here's how we operate at our best, and this is the way we work. You're going to explain the impact. If we say yes, this creates a risk to quality, cost, service, safety. That's why we're not saying yes. We offer a controllable alternative. What we can do for you is... So, again, not saying the yes, but in this instance it's a no, but what we can do for you is this. And number 4, you've got to hold the line. No exceptions, without, and this is a caveat, a senior review. You need to have an out. So when you have these right ways of saying it, you've also got to have an out, because there might be a point where you are going to have to do it. Because depending when you're in any organisation, there'll be a point where someone will tell you it's got to happen. And if they're senior enough, then you've got to do what you're told, and that's how it is. So what do leaders do when it comes to this? Be calm and consistent is a definite do. Align the internals, people, systems and processes before you're saying no externally. So make sure your internal team know what's going on. Train the team to say no with confidence and with explanation. And of course, keep reviewing the exceptions on a regular basis to see if you should be saying yes to certain things, then why not have a review process? Now, leaders don't. They say yes to avoid discomfort, so let's stop doing that. They let commercial pressures override operational realities. That's a big no-no. Don't let that happen, because commercial pressures will always override your operational reality. Don't let you undermine your standards, especially in front of your team. If you're going to say no as a team, make sure you stick to it. And make sure that you are going back to anyone and communicating the reasons why. So those are the ways that you can do it. And if you want to make it stick, what you got to do, define what that good looks like. That's really important. Reduce those choices so you don't have the yes, no. Reduce the choices. By eliminating those grey areas, it makes it a lot easier for making very clear decisions, especially when it comes to safety, quality, cost. If you've removed the grey areas and then people know exactly what they are allowed and not allowed to do, it's a lot easier, and you won't have people coming asking you, can I just break the rules this time? Right. Well, that's it for Manager Matt this week. As ever, would love to hear your feedback on the show. Put it in the comments, share it, put it on socials, look me up on LinkedIn, friend me, and we'll have a chat on there. But that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful, and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.